In this video, let's take a look at some of the advanced settings that we have in Lightroom that will allow us to create custom default presets. So we've learned how to create a custom profile for your specific camera sensor. Well, how can we apply it to all the images all at once as the default preset instead of using the Adobe Color profile, as you know, by default? When you import images into Lightroom, Lightroom sets it up into the Adobe Color. So the settings that we're going to be looking at are under the Lightroom Classic menu on a Mac, going down to Preferences, or if you're on a PC, you'll be clicking on the Edit menu and choosing Preferences. Once you are in Preferences and you go to the second tab, under presets, you will have the option to set different type of default presets. So here by default we have master as Adobe default. But if we click on that, we can also choose camera settings. So what is camera settings? Camera settings are the camera styles that are set by your camera, such as camera landscape or camera vivid or camera neutral or any of the other settings that your camera may offer, such as Fuji cameras offer you different film styles. Those are all camera specific presets. So if you wanted a Lightroom to pull that information from the metadata of your file, then all you need to do is set this master to camera settings. So no matter what kind of camera you use, it will always set it to the camera style that you've chosen when you were shooting these profiles. Now remember, these are raw files, so everything can be reset at any point. But here are some other options that we can do. We can create specific presets for specific cameras. So here I have a 5D Mark III open shade preset, and I'll show you how to create that. We actually did that in our previous video, but we'll take a look at it again. So if I were to choose one of these presets, and I would choose to overwrite master settings for specific cameras, then I can even create all kinds of custom default presets for specific cameras. And Lightroom will find all the different cameras that you ever shot with and import it into Lightroom, and will allow you to create specific profiles for those. For example, I have Fuji X-T3 here, and I could set different settings for that one, or I could leave it on camera settings. Therefore, it will pull all the information from my metadata of that camera, such as like Astia Soft or something like that, if I had chosen to shoot with that. Okay, so let's take a look and see how we can apply all of these things. I'm going to set this back to its default, and we're going to close it. So here, let's take a look how we can create a custom setup for our images from this point on. So for example, in the previous video, you learned how to create a dual Illuminate DNG profile, which I call dual exposure XT3. A shot with my X-Rite color checker in the shade and in open sun, and I created a dual profile. So you may have seen that my image changed color. I'll do that again. So here's Adobe Color, and here is my dual custom profile that I created. So the colors are a little bit more open and a little bit more even. So I could set that up. And then I could, for example, I noticed that I always add, let's say, 20 points of texture and let's say 10 points of clarity. And this is something that will come from your own personal experience. As you work through your images, you may kind of have an idea of what settings you use over and over again. So let's say I do 20 on the vibrance, but I'll do -7 on saturation. And then I could go into the detail tab, and I can apply my preset for sharpening that I like. And I know from my Fuji camera, it's usually 65 and the radius is 0.8. And I usually leave the detail at about 10. And I will go to lens correction, and I'll make sure that remove chromatic aberration and enable the profile for my lens is enabled. But I do need to make sure that the setup is not custom, but it's default. and that's going to pull the information from the metadata of the file. So let's say I've done all of this. So now I can go ahead and save that as my preset. And I'll go ahead and click on the plus in the presets, and I'll create a preset, and I will name it XT3. Now, here's the trick. You need to check none here and only check the variables that you've changed. So notice I do want to set my custom profile that I created earlier. So I will check this treatment and profile option. I will check the texture, the clarity, the sharpness, and the lens and chromatic aberration corrections, and I will include the process version. That's just the process version of this particular Lightroom version 9.4. And I'll go ahead and create that. And then I will go into my Lightroom Classic preferences or edit preferences, and I will set this master profile. So what I'll normally do is I'll set the master profile to camera settings, just in case I bring in images from my Nikon, not Nikon, but Canon or something like that. And then I'll click on Override Master Presets, and I'll select my Fuji X-T3. And if I had more than one body, I could also show the serial number. I don't have more than one body, so I don't need to see the serial number. And then here under default, I can choose my presets and scroll down, and here we go. Here's the X-T3, and I can create a default setting. So there it is. Now, once you've created it, you're pretty much done. But if later you wanted to change the setting from your preset to something else, you could, or you could also delete it. Let's see if I can also create one for my Nikon. Not Nikon, I keep saying that, for my Canon. So I'll go ahead and select my Canon 5D Mark III. There it is. And I will select the preset that I have for my 5D Mark III Open Shade. And I will create that one as well. So now I have these two cameras, and I have camera settings set for any other camera that I might choose that I might have not selected for specific presets here, and I did not have a custom camera profile created with the color checker. So let's see how this works out now. I'm going to go ahead and close it. So I'm going to go ahead and choose a different image. Let's choose some colorful image. So here we go. So here's some reds and things like that. Maybe, let's see what we have. Here, we got more colors here. There's lots of colors. So if I open up my basic panel, notice it's under Adobe Color and nothing is set. If I click on the Reset button, ta-da! It just changed it to Duo Exposure X-T3 Profile, and my texture is added and my clarity is added, and all the other settings are added. Let's see, under Detail, yep, 65 and so on, Lens Correction, there it all is. Let's take a look and see how it worked out for my Canon camera. So I'll go to Library, and to find my Canon pictures very quickly, I'll go to All Photographs, I'll click on Metadata, and I will look by cameras. Let's see, all cameras, and here's 5D Mark III. And so let's take a look. Okay, let's take a look at some of our previous students. So here we go, and we'll go to Develop. And again, it's in basic right now, Adobe Standard. I'm going to click on Reset. And here we go, 5D Mark III, Open Shade. And everything had changed for that one. And I don't remember what settings. Okay, I didn't change my settings for the sharpening, but I do have my lens correction. So this is how it's done. I hope that helps you out in your workflow.